Everybody. This is Danny Deers with the Austin American-Statesman. Every week during the football season on this Longhorn Confidential podcast, we like to bring you an expert, someone who knows the team that Texas is playing this week. This week, we got Andrew Abadie. He's a sports writer over at the Gainesville Sun. He is a New Orleans native. He is a Southern Miss grad. You can follow him at Andrew Abadie on Twitter. Andrew, how you doing today?
Man, we're doing good. I think people are hopeful here that basketball season's around the corner.
Well, there's one champion on Florida's campus, so that's something to look forward to. But there's a football game to look forward to this weekend at the Swamp, 2:30 Central Time, 3:30 Eastern. Where we will all be ESPN broadcast if you're watching at home. We got Florida, which is 1-3, Texas 3-1. Not a great start to the season for the Gators. They do have two losses to two top five teams. I'm kind of wondering, Andrew, what's the overall vibe in Gainesville? Are people disappointed? Are people angry? Is this about what people expected when you see LSU and Miami early on the schedule? What's the vibe in
Uh,
Gainesville?
yeah, no, I think it's disappointing. The perhaps, and I was telling you off air, I'm kind of a pro covering bad football teams, but perhaps the strangest part of all of this is how everybody is discussing who the next coach is going to be. He's not fired. Like but that gives you context of where this thing is at, and it just feels like it's all bought time at this point. Billy Napier's got a steep buyout, but there's a chance he can still turn it around. He did last year, but man, it just seems like this team has regressed. That USF loss was, I think, one of the nails in the future coffin, or the one that's going to really bite them. Because like even if you can turn this thing around, I think people are so fed up. It's like, okay, you're going to have an immaculate turnaround on a schedule that is just a gauntlet. I mean, it's top 10 team after another. So yeah, it's not looking good for Billy Napier and company. And for me, they've played well defensively. They've kept them in games, but this offense just is not clicking. And, Billy has refused to give up the play calling. That's been a root to a lot of it. And, if I'm Billy, knowing I'm on a hot seat, maybe you're supposed to start digging into your bag of tricks and being open-minded. And he is hell bent to not. I mean, that's the hill he's going to die on at this point. So that's where it's all at in Florida right now.
Yeah, I think I was reading on the Sun website this week that Billy had essentially said, "Yeah, I'm not giving up play calling duties. I'm going down with this ship." Nationally, I think his job status is kind of what a lot of us know about Florida. Those stories tend to do well on a national scope. But in Gainesville, is that the story? Is everyone talking about Billy Napier's job status? Is that a distraction to the team? What is the Billy Napier conversation on the Florida campus?
Yeah, it's the talk of the town. And honestly, right under that, it's the status of DJ Lagway. And I think part of the feeling at the end of last year was, well, if you fire Billy now, you don't keep DJ, and that stock is tanking quickly. And yeah, I think the shocking part has been DJ Lagway's regression. I mean, coming off of last year, he was the spark for them, and he's just not been very good. I mean, he was flat out awful against LSU. And personally, from what I've seen, and I didn't get to watch them very closely last year, but I just don't see how DJ's healthy. And even if he was healthy, not that they've said it, but he hadn't really practiced with the team all of spring, majority of fall. Like they're not on page. And one of Billy's rationals of not giving up play calling was that he didn't want to change the signals. And I'm just like, he's not there. What difference does it make at this point? Yeah, I think it's Billy and then DJ, and I think, but the DJ blame has not been solely on DJ. I think a lot of people are kind of take the blame and the talk of DJ and put it on Billy because of the regression they see. Whether it's he's not putting up the numbers, he just doesn't look like the guy he was, and the feeling is that it's year two in a Billy Napier system, and that's why he's dropping off. But truthfully, I think them either not giving other guys a chance at this, but maybe that happens this week. I don't know, but they're committed to DJ. And, another storyline that's kind of to come out now is, I mean, they got guys dropping like flies in terms of injuries right now too, and they're not staying healthy, particularly on the defensive side. And I think that's going to catch up with them sooner rather than later.
Freaking on DJ, what is DJ's, for lack of a better word, deal? I mean, is it a matter of he just hasn't been healthy? Is it a matter of this is a sophomore who we maybe put too much expectations as a five-star and it just takes a little while to develop? Why do you think he has not been what Texas fans have kind of gone through this a little bit with Arch Manning and kind of his slow start this season? What exactly do you attribute this slow start to his Florida career to?
Well, I think Arch has an excuse. I mean, Ohio State looks like the best team in the country. Like that's understandable. But when you're playing USF, who's not a bad team, you're supposed to do more than what DJ has. And then you have a 5 interception game against LSU. It's just it was one of the worst performances since the '90s. Like, I mean, this is not good. To me, I think it's a slew of things. The first is that he hadn't practiced. He didn't start, so they say, hasn't started practicing with the team 11 on 11 until like the last week of fall camp. That's a problem in itself. And then you kind of look at, I rewatch and kind of dissect the game film, and one of the issues to me is that, I think part of it's the play calling. It's not setting himself up. Teams have tape on DJ and know how to kind of, build a game plan around him. And to me, I don't think Billy has done a good job of adjusting the play calling to kind of help DJ. I think that's part of the issue. And then they don't do deep passes. I mean, it's very rare for DJ to throw the ball plus 10 yards. I mean, majority of his passes are either at the line of scrimmage or 5 yards deep, and that becomes very predictable play calling. And I don't know if it's because DJ Camp has not been able to make those throws downfield. He's done, honestly, a horrible job of it. And maybe, and you have to suspect that might be because he's having shoulder problems still. To me, something's not right. He doesn't look healthy. If he was healthy, he would be doing different things. He was a guy that was branded to be somebody who can run and scramble. Haven't seen much of that. The only times he's running is when he's running for his life. And, another layer to it is this offensive line was supposed to be one of the best in the SEC because this is all this experience they had, and they've been awful. I mean, third and shorts so many times they give up a flag, and then all of a sudden it's third and long. And I don't think all of it's on DJ. Some of it is, but I think I just don't think he's healthy. He can't be. And gosh, he's pushing 250. I don't know if that's a right size to be for him, especially if a good comparison I made is you look at Byron Brown at USF, who's a running quarterback, and he's that big, but he's a guy lowering his shoulder and okay with taking those kinds of hits. DJ isn't doing that. I wonder if that's a side effect of him being injured. I don't know, but it's just the eyes are telling me he's not right or he's not 100%. He's playing through something. They won't say it. They give us a song and dance of certain guys are healthy and then they end up being out 2 days later for the season. So I think to be seen, that there's some excitement around the backup quarterback, Tramel Jones. But considering how Billy has gone about things very stubbornly, the only way they're going to take DJ out is if he gets hurt or something like that. So I don't think all of it's on DJ. I think the fans acknowledge that, but it's clearly frustrating when he was supposed to be one of the top quarterbacks of the SEC this year.
Flipping it around to the defensive side, you did mention that they're, kind of starting to pile up some injuries on that side of football, but overall, this Florida defense has played pretty well this season. Who's a name or two the Texas fans should know for Saturday on the defensive side?
Yeah, Miles Graham for sure. He was somebody that they looked highly upon coming into the season, and he's delivered. He's delivered and then some. He's probably one of their best defensive players and supposed to be one of their leaders on and off the field. And he's looked the part, leads the team with 20 something tackles. I mean, he's a guy. Another one who's besides having an awful moment in the USF game, Brendan Bett. He had that spitting incident that kind of costed them that game on the game-winning drive that South Florida had. He's been a really nice piece for them, and they're starting to kind of get thin on the defensive line with Caleb Banks being out, and I think he's somebody that has at least made his presence known. But the thing with the Florida defense, they're going to give up yards. They bend, but they don't break. And I know some people him and haw over them giving up all these yards, but they're not scoring. So what difference does it make? The other issue that Florida's defense is I think, gonna start running into, although the bye might mitigate this, is that they're starting to be on the field way more than the offense is because the offense can't convert third downs. And so I think they're going to start dealing with the wear and tear of being on the field way too long. And I think we kind of saw that in the Miami game in the second half. So, this offense has to deliver on more ways than one, just to just give this defense a break.
The big picture, and maybe things just aren't salvageable at this point. But if this Florida team turns around its season, gets it together and, maybe contends for a SEC championship or, a spot at the top of the SEC standing, it's because of blank.
Probably the defense, no question. Their defense has played extremely well. It's just, can they hold up till the end of the season? And man, that question itself, though, is so optimistic on Florida's season right now, just with the way the ship is sinking. And the crazy thing is, even if let's say they turn things around, this was a question I posed to one of my colleagues: is okay, what if Billy does turn it around this year? What does that have to look like? I mean, if he goes 6-6 against a schedule that's filled with 10 different top 10 teams, does he deserve to keep his job, or are they fed up with him? Does he have to match last year's win total? I mean, this guy could pull out a winning season and he still might get canned, and maybe deservingly so. I don't know. It's this is such a That's perhaps the strangest part of all of this is I think where I was at before had experienced the lack of success in years past, and this is much different. This is Florida. I think the last time they had a 1-11 season was since the 80s, or 1-3 was since the 80s, or something like that. So it's uncharted waters or uncharted swamps around here. And it's such a strange setup right now. It's just hard to say. I can't. Moral of the question is, I can't see them turning things around right now.
You got to Gainesville in August, so you're still kind of getting your feel for the town as well. And unfortunately, you really haven't got a big home game yet. I mean, LAU's LAU, and the South Florida game was a surprising loss, but LSU and Miami were on the road for Florida. So, what should, from what you experience, what you've heard, what should Texas fans expect on Saturday from the Swamp? Steve Sarkisian said earlier this week it's one of the toughest places to play in college football. Texas hasn't been there in 85 years, so no one over here knows about it. But what's your impressions about the Swamp and just the venue, and what should we should all expect on Saturday?
Well, the Tom Petty thing in the third quarter is really cool. I got to see that in firsthand in Long Island. You see it on TV every now and then, but to watch your people go hard on don't back down is it's really neat. It's a very cool thing to see. But yeah, there's questions of what this crowd might look like now. Are people jumping ship and whatnot? There at one point this was supposed to be a big top 10 game, and it's clearly not. So like everybody else who's at least in the media in Florida, I don't know what that crowd's going to look like. I know it's supposed to be a tough environment, and they can get loud. I think the one thing to know about this Florida crowd, and they're aware of when they need to be loud and when not to be loud. So I think that kind of this is an interesting fan base in the sense of they have a higher football IQ than most fan bases, which I can respect. Which is why their frustrations are somewhat valid. Like you hear craziness. Don't get me wrong, you hear craziness here, but I've heard some crazy things at other places that are just wild, and at least here it's like makes sense. So they're at least informed of, or a little better informed of what's going on. So, but yeah, I think it'll be a fun environment. Downtown Gainesville is supposed to be fun on game day. It's an interesting spot. Be wary of parking. It's a little rough on the weekends, but I think the one thing to really look forward to is that Tom Petty thing. I mean, that is a cool tradition.
That's the beauty of working in the media. We get parking passes. Like I
Yes.
said, you're just kind of new to the game, but do you have any recommendations for Gainesville? Any place people need to eat, stop at, hit up before or after the game?
Yeah, and oh my God, my mind's going blank. If you hadn't asked me that, there's a pizza place nearby. hang on, I'm gonna Google it real quick because it lives up to the hype. Satchel's Pizza. It's a very unusual venue, but everybody told me like that's the place to go. And like I'm a foodie, but I'm not big on pizza. That place lives up to the hype. It's not overly priced either. It's a unique spot to be at. So I highly recommend Satchel's either before or after the game. There's tons of spots downtown. I don't think you can go wrong with. I know the Top and Crybabies are really popular spots. But yeah, that's probably my like from what I've been around for the first few months. That's probably the spots I can recommend. Definitely Satchels. That is like a perennial Gainesville spot that everybody has told me I had to go to if you want to experience Gainesville at its finest, and it lived up to that. So that's my rec.
Definitely look forward to that after the game, after we go hang out in what I hear is an open air press box, which will be a different experience for us Texas media members. But it's a
I have a fun story about that. Nobody told me that when I showed up, and I had the only one dealing of an open air press box I had was Mississippi State, and at least I had known that was going to happen. And typically the press boxes are freezing to peel the curtain back. I was a fool, and I brought a jacket and I wore pants and I sweated the whole way and through the whole game, and nobody told me. And I just, yeah, so be ready for that because it gets a little toasty up there sometimes.
we have some gentlemen that like to dress up for Texas games, and I like to put on a suit jacket every once in a while. But we're leaving that
Don't
at
do
home.
it.
That's not making the trip to
Nope.
Gainesville this weekend.
Don't do it. I'm with you. Like I try and dress. I'm not rocking a suit, but I try and dress decently. And that I no no I'm shorts and a t-shirt because you got to make a decent walk from where they give you the parking passes too. So it's just not worth it. And I think if I correct me if I'm wrong, forecast might be a little questionable on Saturday. I think it's like 50% rain on top of that.
I've heard some rain. I heard some 70s. I'm going to have had to pack that umbrella as well. So, but no one, no nobody, no none of these Florida fans are going to feel sorry for us.
No, no.
Walking from the garage. Awesome. Well, Andrew, I really appreciate the time. That's Andrew Abadie with the Gainesville Sun. Check out his work. Over in Gainesville, they also, USA Today Network publishes it all over there. So I'm sure you can find it if you have a, USA Today subscription as well. But he's at Andrew Abadie on Twitter. And yeah, check out his work this weekend. If check out our work this weekend, and we'll see you at the Swamp. Deuces.